So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Hiduku back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, April 1st here today. Hopefully everybody had a good day yesterday and it's having a good day so far today. It is, in fact, Thursday, April 1st. It is opening day for the MLB, opening day for the New York Yankees and the New York Mets as the Yankees begin their chase for their 28th World Series title, and the rest of the league begins their chase to ultimately try to get to the one common goal of each team, and that's the goal of winning a championship and winning the World Series for each of the 30 MLB teams. Obviously 30 teams, 162 games, and one champion. That's how it is. So today begins it all. Obviously, it started back in spring training, but now is when baseball games start to count. This is when stats start to really matter, and this is when the season really starts to get going. Obviously, it did start a couple weeks back in spring training, but we now have meaningful baseball games here. We now have 162 games. We now have games that are going to go into the stat book. We're going to have games that are going to count in the win-loss record. And we're going to have, and hopefully we're going to have a successful season for the New York Yankees that ends in a World Series championship. That's obviously the goal. That's the hope. That's what a lot of people think and some expect. I really believe the Yankees have the team to get there. It's just a matter of finishing it off. We've been getting to the playoffs the past 3-4 years. We just haven't been able to get to that next level. We keep adding. We add some players. We keep guys. We keep going in every year with the same expectations. We haven't been able to come through. So hopefully this is the year. We really believe, especially me as a Yankees fan, many really believe that this is it for the New York Yankees. We got to win one this year. This is one of the make or break seasons, I would say, for the New York Yankees. Is we got to win one this year. It's almost like this is it. And if we don't win this year, the roster might look slightly different next season. There might be some changes. I would imagine there might be some changes at head coach, but stuff like that. So this is it. This is the big year for the New York Yankees. We got to come through and capitalize this year and win it all, because that's what we got, and I really believe we have the team to do it. So super exciting for opening day, not just for the New York Yankees, but the rest of the MLB. Yankees play today in the afternoon. Mets play later today against the Nationals. So the Yankees have the day game. Nets have the nightcap. So I'll be able to get both those games, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what all the teams do, but I think now that the Mets have a team that they seem to be really solid, and now with the Yankees obviously also being a true World Series contender, it's going to be a fun season for baseball with New York. It's going to be a fun season of baseball for both the New York teams with the Yankees and the Mets. I think it's going to be super fun. With both teams. The Mets, obviously, many expect to play at a high level, and the Yankees, many expect to get to and win the World Series. So it's going to be a fun year. So we got all that to get to today. To recap last night in sports, because I want to get to a lot of the opening day stuff I got planned for today. To quickly recap what happened last night, the Nets got one of the ugliest wins of the season. It was ugly. It was not clean at all. It was ugly, but we got the win. We made the comeback. The comeback was good. The majority of the game was ugly. But the Nets got the win nonetheless. It started off terrible for the most part of the game. It looked terrible, but the Nets were able to come back, climb their way back, got the win, and still won by 12 points. So if you look at the score now without watching the game, you probably think, the Nets won this one easily. They won by 12 points. But if you watch the whole game and you realize how it started, you would understand that the Nets, barely pulled out the victory here. Got hot late, and they won the game. So, good win for the Nets. It was ugly, good win. We got to just move on to it and focus on tonight's game against the Charlotte Hornets. So, hopefully the Nets pull out that win. Rangers also played today. Sabres snapped their losing streak yesterday. So, the Rangers play a Sabres team that just won a game. They won last night, so it's a back-to-back. So I'm hoping that they're hoping that the Rangers win. The Rangers need to win these 2 games. I mean, we got it. We cannot embarrass ourselves on television and lose to the Sabres twice. I understand they won yesterday, and I understand they snapped the losing streak, and all that stuff. That's all great and all. But if we can't win today, there's a serious problem. So the Rangers better pull out the win. So that's tonight. Nets also tonight, second half of a back-to-back. Harden hopefully is in the lineup. He left the game yesterday with hamstring tightness. So if I had to pick, I would say he's not in the lineup tonight. But you gotta be optimistic and hope that he is, and hope that it's not a long-term thing where he's gonna miss multiple games. I think with Harden, it should be. Steve Nash said yesterday in his post-game interview, it should be something. He should be back very soon. So hopefully that is the case for Harden, as he's a big piece of this Nets team, as we all know. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast, as obviously it is in fact opening day, so that means I do my MLB Power Rankings. I do it in all sports leagues, NHL, NBA, MLB, and the NFL. On the day or whatever, on the opening day, I do my Power Rankings. So I'll give you my top 10 teams. I don't do all 30 teams for the MLB. I don't do all of the teams for any of the leagues. I just don't. I mean, to be honest, what does it matter if who do I, like, does it really matter who I put in my 26th place spot? I don't really think so. So I usually like to do top 10, number 1, because I think all top 10, these 10 teams are teams that all could be battling, not for a World Series, but could all be solid contenders to get to the playoffs, especially the top 5, top 3. And obviously, top 10, it's obviously, I think these are the top 10 best teams. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the 30th team in the MLB and go from there. I just don't think that's as entertaining. So I'm going to get to my top 10, keep it short and sweet like I always do, and give you, who I think is the best team. And at the end of the year, I'll pull it out and see which ones I got right. Obviously, who ultimately won the World Series and stuff like that. So that's what I'll do. And then we'll get into some fantasy baseball stuff. I'll give you some stuff for the lineups, who I'm putting in today. Some advice for fantasy baseball lineups as fantasy baseball season starts today, along with the regular MLB season. Also with the power rankings, I'm going to do a little bit of a Yankees-Mets season preview when I get to the teams, not going to say where I place them yet, but when I get to the Yankees and the Mets, because just know both of them are in my top 10 list. Not going to say where, but they are both in my top 10 list. When I get to the Yankees and the Mets, I'm also going to do a little bit of a season preview, what I expect out of the team, and then we'll get to the next team, obviously, in front of them, and then we'll get to the New York Sports Update. Obviously today, the Yankees play, the Mets play, a meaningful baseball game. That's what's so great about it. We've obviously had baseball for about the past month in spring training, but now that we're finally getting meaningful baseball that counts, these are numbers that are going to count. The spring training stuff, that's thrown out by now. That stuff, forget about spring training. It is now time for the 162-game slate ahead of us. Nets also play today. Rangers also play today. So, a packed day for me and a packed day for many New York sports baseball fans, along with the rest of the MLB fans out there. Big day for a big day for the MLB and a big day for sports in general. So should be good. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. So let's get into it. This is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So like I said earlier, I do this every year with the power rankings. I do this every year for every league. NFL, when the NFL comes around, I'll talk about that before week 1 games. When the NHL started, I gave you my power rankings for them. When the NBA started, I gave you my power rankings for them. So same thing here in the MLB. I'm going to give you my power rankings, give you my top 10 teams. I don't do top 31. It's going to take too long. And number 2, I find that, the 30 to 25 teams, like, they have no shot. What's the sense in me talking about why they're in this place? I really want to get into the top 10 teams. I would say my list might be slightly different than what some people have, which is usually the case sometimes. I've looked around at some other lists, obviously. For the most part, I make my own list. Obviously, we all know, obviously there's a lot of areas on the list where you can agree. I'm not going to say which areas that is, but there's a lot of obvious parts on the list. Like, there's a couple obvious teams that you got to put in the list, and there's a couple teams that it really is just your opinion. There's some teams, like, for example, like the Dodgers, the Yankees, Padres. We all know those are top 10 baseball teams. The Mets, they're a top 10 team. As much as I hate to say it, they are. Those are teams that you can automatically put in. There's some other teams that you could debate. You could go ahead and say, oh, no, this team's on the outside looking in. No, this team's deeper in the top 10. No, this team's right around this area, right? So that's how I feel like my list is. There's obviously the teams, like you cannot possibly tell me that the Dodgers, the Yankees, Padres, and Team Braves and stuff like that are not top 10 baseball teams. They are. But obviously there's some other teams as well on the list that you could argue aren't deserve to be in the top 10, but I might put them in there as well. So I'm going to get into my power rankings, tell you where each team stands and why. And then, like I said, I'm also going to do a little bit of a season preview for the Yankees and the Mets when I get to those teams. I'm not going to say where they are, but when I get to the Yankees and the Mets, I'm going to do a little bit of a season preview, kind of what to expect out of the Yankees and the Mets. Not just tell you why I have them in the spot I have them in, but also, what I expect out of, the Yankees and the Mets this season, because I do expect, I do expect both them to have good seasons. Obviously, the Yankees, I very well think, are really, really have a good shot at making to the World Series. And the Mets, I think, also have a good shot at, getting to the playoffs and maybe winning a playoff series or two. So, here we go. Let's get into it. This is my MLB Power Rankings. I'm going to start at number 10, go to number 1, just to make that clear. So, here we go. I'm going to start at number 10. So, number 10, this is one that you could debate about. You could argue that they shouldn't be in, they should be in. But number 10, I have the Washington Nationals in at number 10. Now, I know a lot of people, like I said, might argue that they should not be number 10. A lot of what you see out of the Washington Nationals, if you look at other lists, a lot of people have them at number 15, number 13, kind of around the number 10 mark. But I put them in number 10, and here's my reason why. Okay, the Nationals, obviously, Nationals won the World Series back in, the last 162 game season we had. It feels like forever ago, but it is the case. So, obviously, 2019, they ended up winning the World Series. They obviously beat the Houston Cheaters. So, they obviously beat them. And that was great and all. They did great. Obviously, they ended up losing Anthony Rendon in the offseason. That was their first year without Bryce Harper. They ended up winning it. And obviously, then last season, they struggled, weren't able to make the playoffs. They just didn't play well. They just didn't. They didn't have a good year. That's just how it went. They didn't have a good year. It's a 60-game slate. It was, it was a short season. They didn't have many games to play. And as a matter of fact, to kind of put it, the Nationals, the World Series winning Nationals team, they started off terrible. They were, I believe, 19-31 in their first couple of games. 19-31 in their first 40, 50 games of the season. They started to turn it around. So, like I said, 60-game slate. They started off bad. They weren't able to bounce back. This is a team that is meant to play 162 games. This is a team that is not a good first-half team, not a good starting team. The Nationals have not started off well at all. They didn't start off well the season they won the World Series. Last season, they didn't start off well. They didn't make the playoffs because it was only 60 games. This season, I believe they might get off to a slow start, but they a lot of times this team starts to pick it up towards the end, and they make that strong push, and they go into the playoffs with momentum. So for that reason, Washington Nationals in at number 10. I also believe Steven Strasburg obviously missed pretty much all last year. He's coming back. You already got, one of the best pitchers in the MLB, and Max Scherzer there. Obviously, he's pitching. He's still there. You got guys like Juan Soto. You got guys like Robles in the outfield. And another thing, too, underrated about this team, the coaching staff is a very good coaching. They have a very good coaching staff. This was a coaching staff that took a team that was down in the dumps, a team that looked ugly, was terrible, was almost a laughingstock in the league, took this team in the same year, in the matter of weeks, and got them to a competitive level, got them to win a World Series. Putting in at number 10, I got the Washington Nationals. Number 9, I feel like the Minnesota Twins are in the top 10 every year. They're just one of those teams that's consistently good. They just they're just good. They're good. They're not great. They're not amazing. They're not, the best team in the MLB. They're not a World Series type team. They're just a good team. They're a solid team. They're a team that's going to get to the playoffs. And that's really how I feel. So, at the same time, as much as, not that I don't like the Twins, as much as I like to sometimes change up my top 10s and not have the same teams in it every single year, I got to put the Twins in here. And the reason I say it is because every year, the Twins are a playoff team. They pretty much make the playoffs every single season. Like, you cannot not put a team that makes the playoffs every single season not in your top 10. And like I said, I think with the Twins, one of the problems is winning playoffs, winning a playoff series, going deep in the playoffs. The Twins might have good regular seasons. They might come out looking hot, and they go into the playoffs and they just lose. They get crushed. I mean, part of the reason is because they got to run into the New York Yankees and some other really good teams, and they can't get past them. But the Twins, I really believe, they've got a lot of good players, and they got guys like Miguel Sano, they got guys like Polanco, got guys like Max Kepler. Those are three very big power hitters. And you go to their pitching rotation, they got Kenta Maeda. One addition they made off this offseason was Jay Happ, who came from the Yankees. I don't think he's going to do much with them. He's probably going to he might be a bullpen guy. He might be a guy that's going to come in, when they need him to. He might be their fifth starter role, but he's not good. Jay Happ stinks. I watched him with the New York Yankees. So they got a good pitching staff. They got Kenta Maeda, who's one of the better pitchers in baseball. Last season came, 2 outs away from pitching a no-hitter. And he's a good pitcher. I know a lot of people think he's overrated, but if you look at the numbers, if you watch him play, he got really good off-speed stuff. And this Twins team's got a very good lineup. But when they get to the playoffs, for some reason, their bats just get cold. And that's just one problem with the Twins. They're a good regular season team. Get to the playoffs, they're just not the same team. So, coming in at number 9, I have the Minnesota Twins. Like I said, I could very well put them. You could put them almost anywhere on the list because they make the playoffs every year. But I feel like they're always hovering around the 7 to 9 range. So, I got the number 9 Minnesota Twins coming in there at number 9 on my MLB Power Rankings list. Number 8, I have the Oakland Athletics. And I understand they lost some players this offseason. They obviously lost Marcus Semien. They don't got him there. But I am still a fan of this Oakland A's team when it comes to talent and underrated talent. The Oakland A's, I feel like, are one of the most underrated baseball teams in the MLB. This is a team who obviously was one of the worst teams in the league 3-4 years ago. And picking up young talent, getting young guys, kind of just taking guys, obviously just kind of, getting some pickups and stuff. And now they're all of a sudden back to being a solid team. Now, is this the team that's a World Series team? No. There's a difference between World Series and a contending team in the playoffs. I do truly believe the Oakland A's will make the playoffs again. And a lot of people, like I said, kind of just the Oakland, because the Oakland A's, they don't have that guy on their team that's like that big name. They don't have that guy that's the big name anymore. I mean, obviously, they used to have Donaldson, but even he was kind of like the big name of the team. But even him, he's not that big name anymore. Like, they don't have the Twins. They don't have, like, every team, I feel like, have a big name. So far, the teams that I've named, Washington Nationals, they've got, obviously, Max Scherzer, Juan Soto. Those are two big names. Juan Soto, NL MVP candidate. Minnesota Twins, Kenta Maeda, he's a big name. You got guys like Miguel Sano who have made a name for themselves in the league. Max Kepler coming onto the scene has also made a name for himself. Oakland A's, you could say Matt Chapman, but not many people talk about him. I think he's one of the most underrated baseball players in the league. The A's, I feel like they've got a lot of talent. No one talks about them. So I'm putting the A's at number 8. And the reason I have them here at number 8, they've got guys, like I said, like Matt Chapman. They obviously did lose Semien, but at the end of the day, they still got Chapman. They've still got a lot of good young talent. Their pitching staff solid. Chris Bassett, Frankie Montas, and also you also got Frankie Montas. You also got Matt Olson, who had a decent year last year. Was up and down. Didn't have the best batting average ever, but he's got very good power. He's a very clutch hitter. He had a lot of good guys. I think last season he had a couple walk-offs. So Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, and then Frankie Montas and Chris Bassett at the front of that rotation, I think is a pretty solid team. Oakland A's coming in at number 8. Number 7, I have the Chicago White Sox. Now, if I did my power rankings list a week ago before Eloy Jimenez tore his pectoral muscle, I would put the Chicago White Sox right now as a top 5 team in the MLB. But obviously Eloy Jimenez tore his pec. He's out 5 to 6 months. And I want to make something clear. I understand baseball is a team sport, right? You can't have one guy. One guy's not going to make up the team. It's not like basketball where you can have one superstar and he takes the team to playoffs. Baseball is a team sport. One guy's not going to be able to make up the team. But you don't realize how big of a hole this is in the Chicago White Sox lineup. You're talking about a guy who was an AL MVP candidate not only last year, but coming into this year, AL MVP candidate Eloy Jimenez. And the White Sox, that is a huge hole in their lineup that is now going to be out for 5 to 6 months. Sure, they might get him at the right time when playoffs come around, But for the majority of the season, he's going to be out, and that is a big hole in the White Sox lineup, and that is why I have him at number 7. I would put him at number 5. I would put him at number 5. Because of their pitching, they got guys like Lucas Giolito, and like I mentioned earlier, guys like Tim Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, but now Eloy Jimenez is out. Their lineup's still very good. They're still a very good team, but not the same without Eloy Jimenez. I have them dropping actually 2 spots. So White Sox coming at number 7. They're still a very good team with Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, Lucas Giolito, kind of your 3-4 big guys there. But without Eloy Jimenez, they're not the same team. They're still good, but not, I would say, with Eloy Jimenez, this was the team that people had in the World Series conversation. Without him, they're a playoff team, but I don't know if they're going to get as deep now as they would. And then, who knows? Maybe he comes back in playoff times. But right now, Chicago White Sox coming in at number 7. Number 6. This is one that some people might not even have him in their power rankings, top 10. I have him at number 6. I have the Toronto Blue Jays at number 6. I'm very high on the Toronto Blue Jays this season. Right? And the Blue Jays fans, they've gone through a couple years of suffering here. Obviously, 3-4 years ago, they were big AL contenders with Edwin Encarnacion, Jose Bautista. They had Josh Donaldson there for a little bit. They had guys all over the place. They had all those guys, right? They had all the big names, all that kind of stuff, right? And they ended up, getting to the ALDS, ALCS, I believe. They ended up obviously losing, didn't get there. I think they ended up losing to the Indians, who ended up losing to the Cubs to the World Series. But this is a Blue Jays team who then went to about 2 years of rebuilding. But the Blue Jays are now here. The Blue Jays got Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I know George Springer is not in the lineup today, and he's starting the season on the IL. I don't think he's on the 10-day IL. I don't think he's going to miss any extended time. I think a hamstring or something. I don't think he's going to miss much time. He's going to be out for a little bit, but he'll be back. They got guys like Bo Bichette, got guys like Vladimir Guerrero, got guys like Kevin Biggio, George Springer, on the mound. You got Hyun-Jin Ryu, and, this is a team that's filled with very good young talent. They picked up Marcus Semien, who I believe might be one of the more underrated acquisitions they made all offseason. Everyone was talking about, signing Springer, making sure that Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. were fully caught up and on the team, right? And everyone's talking about that. But this team is full of young talent. They've got a lot of it. And this is going to be a team that's really good. And I think this is going to be a team that you're going to have to watch out for as we get to September and October. And they're going to be making a strong push. I believe them and the Yankees are going to be battling for that first place spot. I don't think the Rays are going to be battling much anymore. I think it's going to be the Yankees and the Blue Jays battling for that first place spot. I'll get to my thoughts on the Yankees when I get to them. But number 6, I have the Toronto Blue Jays. And like I said, I would put the White Sox in front of them. Without Eloy Jimenez, that team's a completely different baseball team. Coming at number 6, I got the Toronto Blue Jays. Number 5, the first New York baseball team off the board. I got the New York Mets coming in number 5. As much as I hate to say it, and I hate to put them here, and I would much rather put them outside of the top 10 because I can't stand the New York Mets. I'm putting the New York Mets as the top 5 baseball team in the league. I can't believe I'm saying that. But the Mets, obviously yesterday, they obviously signed Francisco Lindor. They extended him 10-year deal, $341 million, a big-time deal. And you're keeping a star shortstop, one of the better shortstops in the league, on your team. And they've got guys like Francisco Lindor, James McCann, Michael Conforto, Pete Alonso, DeGrom, and pitching, Taijuan Walker, Marcus Stroman. They've got all those guys. This is a team that's got a stacked rotation and a very good lineup. I think the strength of this team is their pitching. I still think their hitting is very good, but I think their pitching is one of the best rotations, one of the better rotations out there. So the New York Mets, I'd come in at number 5. And like I said, I think a very reasonable prediction for the Mets this season with guys like Lindor, Pete Alonso, Michael Conforto, Dom Smith, out there, Jeff McNeil, with all those different guys. And then obviously your rotation with DeGrom, Carrasco, obviously Marcus Stroman, Taijuan Walker. Those are 4 very solid starters. Right, I think a reasonable expectation for the New York Mets. I don't know if we're talking World Series yet. I don't think you're talking World Series yet. Now, maybe give Steve Cohen another full offseason to get, maybe another big name through here. The one concern I still have with the New York Mets is their bullpen. Edwin Diaz did have a better year last year, but he still had some inconsistent patches. And obviously, they still had some inconsistent patches. I don't know. I just don't know how I feel completely about the bullpen. Like I said, it improved last season. It was very improved. But, I mean, it's not tough to improve from being the worst bullpen in baseball to being average. It's not that hard to do. But I think, they did lose Justin Wilson, obviously, and they still got Diaz. And I know a lot of people expect Diaz to have a big year, and I get that. But I just think the one concern with the New York Mets is still their bullpen. It's obviously was better last season, but I wouldn't consider it. I think one of the problems is they got a good rotation, they got good lineup. It's just their bullpen. And I think can Edwin Diaz be back to the Edwin Diaz we saw in Seattle when he was one of the best closers in baseball? Last season he showed flashes of it, but he also showed flashes of why in the world did we give this guy the money and sign him here. So I think the one problem with the New York Mets there is just the bullpen. But I do believe that this is a team that's a top 5 baseball team. I think a reasonable expectation is to finish second in the NL East, and I think that's reasonable because you're also battling with the Braves in your division, and the Braves are also got one of the scariest lineups in baseball. And I understand the Mets got a good pitching staff, but the Braves also got a good pitching staff. So I think if it came down to a Mets-Braves one-game series, I would give the Braves the win. So I think the Mets stand at number 5. I don't think they're World Series yet. I know a lot of Mets fans out there might think that. But you also got to realize in the National League, you're battling with teams like the Braves. You're battling with teams like the Padres and the Dodgers. That's tough, right? The Mets going to Los Angeles and trying to beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series. That's not gonna end well, I don't think. So the Mets still need to add. They still need some extra pieces to get to the level of the Padres and teams like that. So number 5, New York Mets. Coming at number 4, I have the Atlanta Braves, and I think the top 4 is almost like guaranteed. Like I think the top 4 is like the only spot where I think you can almost say, you know what, this is locked. Like these 4 teams are in the top 4, and I'm starting off the top 4 with the Atlanta Braves, and I just mentioned this with the New York Mets. Obviously, I think an expectation for them, I think a realistic expectations to finish second in the NL East and maybe make a late push to try to finish first. But the Braves, you got to realize, people, the Braves every year come into the season another underrated team. This season they came in projected like 80, 85 wins, I think. It was something ridiculous. After a team who last season, the Braves came 1 game away from the World Series. They blew a 3-1 lead against the Dodgers. If they win that game, they are in the World Series. They almost defeated the Dodgers, who now people are calling one of the best teams we've seen in a long time in baseball. So the Braves almost beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. And yes, they did blow the lead, and I get that, and that wasn't good. But the fact that they were 1 game away from the World Series, and in that next year you project them to barely finish in first in the NL East, I think is outrageous. I think that, it's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be like a 1-2 game difference. I think they're going to definitely have some cushion. I think the final 5 games of the season, I think the Braves are going to have it clinched. And I think that's an honest thing. I think that's a real thing to say. And I think many Mets fans can agree. Realistic Mets fans, not Mets fans that think they're going to win the World Series. But I do think the Braves coming in. Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, the reigning NL MVP, Freddie Freeman. Then you look at their pitching rotation. You got Soroka. You got guys like Max Fried. Their bullpen their bullpen's also solid. Got a solid bullpen. And you got guys too. You got a good team. You got a very solid team with the Braves. And to be honest, I'll be honest with you, with the Braves, they've got a very video game looking lineup. And actually, I could read you their opening day lineup here for the Braves. I wanted to read this too. They've got a very good lineup. I mean, they've got a very solid lineup. And I think with the Braves I think it's just also trying to find that playoff success, because obviously last season they were 1 game away from the World Series and they ended up losing it. So I think also it's still a young team, and that's another thing too was scary with the Braves. It's still a very young team. So you're talking about a team that is still young, got a lot of young talent, and got some more young talent. So Braves coming in number 4. This is where it gets interesting. Okay, I have an almost pretty much a tie at 3-2. So number 3 on paper, it's the San Diego Padres. And number 2, I have the New York Yankees. And obviously number 1, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I'm just going to reveal my top 3 altogether. So the Padres on paper, I have a number 3. The Yankees at number 2. some of this, obviously, here's my whole thing. I would agree with you if you put the Yankees at number 3. I would agree with you if you put the Yankees at number 2. Right now, I would say the Dodgers are the complete lock for the best baseball team out there. The Dodgers, I don't think anyone could put the Dodgers behind any team right now. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. So, with the Yankees and the Padres, they are very similar, I believe. And the reason I say this is because, let me get to the Padres first, then I'll get to the Yankees. The Padres, they obviously went out, they had a very active offseason. Very active offseason. They got one of the best rotations in baseball. Joe Musgrove, Chris Paddock, Blake Snell, Yu Darvish. They got one of the best rotations in baseball. Okay? Very solid rotation for the San Diego Padres. They've also got one of the best lineups in baseball. You got guys like Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Will Myers, and many different guys like that. They got one of the best lineups in baseball. They got one of the best rotations in baseball. So the Padres are coming in, had a very active offseason, and a team that is definitely going to, I'm not sure if they're going to beat the Dodgers, but they're going to give the Dodgers a little bit of a run for their money. That NL is going to be a fun division. So the Padres, I have number 3. Now number 2, I have the Yankees. You could very well put it either way. The Yankees have, let me talk about the Yankees here, a little bit more in depth here. The Yankees have one of the best lineups in baseball. Aaron Judge, Stanton, Clint Frazier's coming around, right? You got guys like LeMahieu. If you really even want, Torres. Like I said, Stanton earlier. I don't even want to consider Gary Sanchez a really solid asset, but this is the Yankees lineup today. DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Aaron Hicks, Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, Gary Sanchez, Jay Bruce, Clint Frazier, and Garrett Cole is your starting pitcher. So arguably the Yankees have one of the best pitchers in baseball and one of the best lineups in baseball. Now, that's why it's so even. Because yes, would I say that Darvish and Snell are two very solid pitchers? Yes. Are they to the level Garrett Cole is? No. But do they have two other really good pitchers? Yes. The Yankees' rotation is still a little bit of a toss-up. And I think best case scenario for the New York Yankees is the rotation is what we saw in spring training, which was solid. Kluber, Tyone, and Herman and Montgomery all outside of rotations. Cole, obviously, he's the best pitcher of all of them. He's the number 1 starter. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Obviously, I think we can all agree the Yankees' best pitcher is Garrett Cole. But I think one of the big things with the Yankees is their pitching. And how was it last season? What's going to happen to their pitching? Is their pitching going to be better than last season? Is their pitching going to be consistent? Is their pitching going to be solid? What's going to be the big deal there? We all know how good the Yankees are when it comes to batting and their lineup, but pitching's the big question mark for the New York Yankees. And I think the Yankees finished first in the AL East. I really do. I think many people agree with that. And I don't think that's really outrageous to say. I mean, they obviously didn't win the division last season, but you also got to realize the Rays are a different team now. So, coming in at number 2, I would say the New York Yankees, but you could also put them very well at number 3. I don't think you would put them anywhere else. I would think 2 or 3. But obviously, 2 here. Garrett Cole, guys like that with Judge. If Judge can stay healthy. You're talking about a possible MVP candidate. If Stan can stay healthy, you're talking about a guy that can crank 30, 35 home runs this season. Right? It's crazy what the Yankees could do if they could stay healthy. That's what I'm hoping for. Just stay healthy, and this team could be dangerous. I mean, we've seen flashes of them being dangerous. If you stay healthy, this team could be dangerous all season long. That's obviously the hope there for the New York Yankees. So, New York Yankees at number 2, and at number 1, the Los Angeles Dodgers. What more do I have to say about this team? Trevor Bauer, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, David Price, Dustin May is your starting rotation. I mean, when you can name all the players and you can name all 5 of them and you could, sometimes, when you name all those guys, there's not really a weakness in their starting rotation. Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer. Those are 3 guys that very well could be number 1 starters on other teams. Those are 3 aces right there. Then you have a young up and rising star, or David Price. Then you have because May's actually 5th starter. Then you have a young up and rising star in Dustin May. This is a team 2 years from now, if Bauer's still a member of the Dodgers, that could have 4 aces. Because May, I believe, Dustin May, down the road, he's going to turn into an ace, I believe. He's going to be a number 1 starter down the road. He's got a bright future, really good fastball. And obviously lead the way with Bauer, Buehler, and Kershaw. Very rarely do you see a team have 3 aces in 1 pitching rotation. Dodgers went out. They saw the Padres making moves. They went out and went ahead and said, hey, you know what? We're going to make moves as well. Then you look at the lineup. Bellinger, Justin Turner, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy. This is a team who won the World Series. Why wouldn't I put them at number 1? Rounding out the top 10, Los Angeles Dodgers are the best team, I think, right now, starting up in baseball. Could that very well change? Yes. We'll see how it all plays out. It's going to be a fun season. And like I said, I'm always excited for baseball season. But I feel like this season it's even a little bit different. Because last season was only 60 games. It went so quick. Now we're finally getting the full 162, the full season. Let's go. I'm ready for it. So let me just read through it here. Number 10, Washington Nationals. Number 9, Minnesota Twins. Number 8, Oakland Athletics. Number 7, Chicago White Sox. Number 6, Toronto Blue Jays. Number 5, New York Mets. Number 4, Atlanta Braves. Number 3, San Diego Padres. Number 2, New York Yankees. Number 1, Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think you could very well, switch it up. We could put many teams in many different areas. But right now, before the season, that's what I think. Now, at the end of the year, could we pull this out and look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I put that team there? Yeah, sure. And a couple teams I left off my list. I did not put the Phillies in there. I know some people did. Not many, though. I did not put the Tampa Bay Rays in there, although I do think I think the Rays are probably like number 11, 12. That's the other thing, too. This is my top 10. So just because I don't put a team in there doesn't mean I don't think they're good. Because I think these teams are going to be solid this season. But obviously, look at the Rays and stuff like that. Like, I know a lot of people are still talking about the Rays as a true team. I just don't think the Rays are going to be the same without Blake Snell and Charlie Morton. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I get it, they're getting Wander Franco, and they still got, Willie Adames and guys like that. But without 2 guys that were really pivotal pieces of that World Series, and they still got Randy Rosarena and Manuel Margot and Austin Meadows, I get that. But it's just something about this team with the Rays just isn't the same. They still got Tyler Glass now. But without those 2 pitchers there, I just don't know if it's going to be the same there. So, right now, I have the Rays outside. Another team also, Astros. I think the Astros are going to, without Verlander, without Springer, I think they'll be decent, but I don't know if they're going to be a top 10 team. I really don't. I just don't. I think they lost a lot. And Lance McCullers, I don't think that was a great move either. So, they gave him a lot of money for a guy that was a solid above 3 ERA. So, we'll see how it all plays out, but that's what I got. So, those are some teams I definitely left off. But like I said, you can go either way with it. So, obviously, back to the Yankees and the Mets here. Like I said, I think it's very reasonable to say the Yankees very well are going to win the AL East, or the American League East. Because you obviously got the Orioles, one of the worst teams in baseball. They're at bottom. Then you got the Red Sox. I think they're number 4. Everyone's saying the Red Sox are going to make this playoff run. Or not so much playoff run. I don't know if it's going to happen. Just because you also got to realize the Rays are going to be in front of you in the Blue Jays. And then the Yankees, obviously. Then number 3, I have the Rays. Number 2, I have the Blue Jays. And number 1, I have the Yankees. And as for the NL East, probably last place would probably be the Marlins. And I understand a lot of people, the Marlins made the playoffs last season. But people got to realize, too, this is not the Marlins. Like, the Marlins are still rebuilding. This is not a team that's going to win you a division. So, I got the Marlins at 5th. Then you got, I would probably say, the Phillies at 4th. Then the Nationals at 3rd. Braves at 2nd. Or Mets at 2nd. And Braves at 1st. So, it would go Braves, Mets, Nationals, Phillies, Marlins. Is how I would put that. Then the AL East, I would put Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, Red Sox, Orioles. And I think that's also very fair. Because you got 2 rebuilding teams at the bottom of the division, and you got 3 teams that are very well still playoffs. Like I said, Rays are still a playoff team. They're just not the same team that they were. Still very well in the playoffs, though. An interesting division is going to be AL West. Because the Mariners, A's, Astros, Texas Rangers are one of the worst teams in baseball. So they're going to be last. But then you look at some of these other teams like the Astros, the A's. The Angels just can't address pitching. So that's going to be interesting. NL West is going to be a ton of fun. I mean, it's going to probably go Rockies, Diamondbacks, Giants, and then probably Dodgers or Padres than Dodgers. But that's also going to be a fun division, just seeing who wins that division. Is it the Dodgers or the Padres? Probably the Dodgers. But there's a lot of interesting. Another one, AL Central, too, is another interesting division. That's another one. Who's going to win that? That's like a toss-up. You could have 3 teams as a toss-up there. Is it going to be the White Sox, Indians, or Twins? White Sox without Eloy Jimenez aren't the same team. You got the Indians who are like... The Indians are in one of those weird situations where they're like... They're good, but at the same time, they're like in a half rebuild stage. Like they got rid of their face of their franchise, Francisco Lindor, but they still got some really good players. They still got Shane Bieber and guys like that. I just don't know. Like it's just they're a weird team. Royals got a lot of young talent, but that AL Central is always an interesting division. AL West is going to be interesting. NL Central will be interesting. Brewers, Reds, Cubs, Cardinals. I mean, very well, you could have 4 teams battling it out there. Because the Pirates, we all know, they're one of the worst teams, probably the worst team in baseball. So, probably the worst team in baseball. The Pirates. So then you have the Brewers, Reds, Cubs, Cardinals. And the Cardinals with Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson, and the other young guys are very good. So. But I think it's accurate to say the Yankees could very well win the NL East. So, we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, it's super exciting. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. So, anyway, let's get to fantasy baseball. So, we're going to get into some fantasy baseball advice. We'll get into that. Give you who I think should, who you could start and all that good stuff. Coming up next. Alrighty, so that's some big news. So Roy Williams, who was the North Carolina head coach, has retired. So after 33 years as a Hall of Fame head coach, Roy Williams is announcing retirement as he is done. So Roy Williams has announced retirement. 33 years head coaching. That is really surprising. That's really surprising. Alright, so anyway, so let's get into fantasy baseball here, and then we'll get in, and then we'll finish off the podcast here. So fantasy baseball, I talked about my team about a week or two ago when I did my draft. So I'm just gonna give you my fantasy baseball team again. So it's Will Smith, Matt Olson, Whit Merrifield, Alex Bregman, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Josh Donaldson, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Victor Robles, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, and then Gene Segura. Then my bench is Eloy Jimenez, Jorge Soler, Jake Cronworth, and Yadier Molina. So I did make a move. I added Yadier Molina as a catcher. I also made some other moves. I put Luke Voit and Austin Nola on the IL. And then my pitchers are Garrett Cole, Tyler Glasnow, Chris Paddock, Joe Musgrove, Will Smith, Frankie Montas, Zach Eflin, Chris Bassett, and Taylor Rogers. So that's my pitchers, and then that's the rest of my team. So far, my team is injury-prone very much. Luke Voit and Austin Nola have already hit the IL, and I'm sure Jimenez very soon is also going to hit the IL, 60-day IL. So I'm going to put him there. Now, it could turn into a situation where I might just drop him. Just because if he's not, I'm going to put him on the IL just because, I know that I should probably just drop him, but if no one else is going to use the IL, if none of my other players are going to be on it, hopefully if my team can stay healthy, why drop a guy that's really pivotal, and I can get him back late in the season or something. So I'm going to put him on the IL to start the year, and if I get other players that start to hit the IL, I'm just going to release him because he's not going to be playing. So as it stands right now, Eloy Jimenez is my team. Very well, if there's other players that get injured and they need to put IL, there's only 3 IL spots. I've already got 2 of them, which is Voit and Austin Nola. Hopefully Voit, I'm knowing more about Voit. Voit should be back May, June-ish. So definitely going to keep him. I'm not going to drop him. Austin Nola, he's on the IL. I don't know much what's going to happen with him. He has a finger injury, so I don't know much about him. I know who he is, but there hasn't been much news on him. 10-day IL, he's going to be out to start the season. He'll probably, too, be back late April, early May part. So, obviously, there's definitely some areas. But this is my team right now. These are my starters for today. Will Smith, Matt Olson, Whit Merrifield, Alex Bregman, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Josh Donaldson, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Victor Robles, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Gene Segura. That's my team. And then obviously you got the rest of your pitchers. So that's the starting lineup. My bench is Eloy Jimenez, Jorge Soler, Jake Cronworth, Yadier Molina. And then my 2 IL spots are Luke Voit and Austin Nola. So I'm still trying to figure out, how I should all manage this. Obviously Jimenez on my bench. Cronworth, I'm sitting. I'm putting Josh Donaldson in as well. And Yadier Molina, I'm also sitting. Not going to put him in front of Will Smith or on my utility spot. I'm putting in Gene Segura, though. And the reason I'm doing that is because he had a very good year last year. And another thing with him, he doesn't strike out much. He batted .266 last season. This year, his projection is supposed to be .283. He's supposed to get, about 62 RBIs. He's not a guy that's going to hit tanks and hit bombs and be a guy that's going to be a strikeout home run kind of guy. It's the guy that's going to go out there, give you a solid performance. And I know a lot of people, I know he's getting older and stuff, but another thing too, which is so great about Gene Segura, he could play second and third base. So I could put him at my second base spot or my third base spot. So it could go many different areas. And I understand Matt Olson last season batted .195, struggled a little bit, but also he's a big home run kind of guy. He's a big home run. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, this season projected to hit 37 home runs. He's a high strikeout home run hitter. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, you're going to have some of the guys. But yeah, that's my team kind of. And then Will Smith's obviously my catcher. Last season batted .289, had 8 home runs. Big part of that Dodgers World Series win. I'm not moving him at all. Whit Merrifield also third ranked at his position. Last season batted .286. This is a guy who's supposed to bat .285 this season. He's supposed to be another guy doesn't strike out much. Is going to go out there and get a lot of good opportunities. Victor Robles, obviously last season he didn't hit great, but he's a very good outfielder. He doesn't strike out much when he's on. He doesn't strike out. He hits a little bit of slump. He starts to strike out a ton. And I know that might sound like an obvious answer, but it's not like when he hits a slump. It's not like he's just not making good contact. When he hits a slump, sometimes he just strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. But when he's going, he's low on strikeouts. And then another thing, he's a young guy, kind of low-risk addition. I added him late in the draft. Dylan Carlson, I very well think will probably win the NL Rookie of the Year. This is a guy who's supposed to bat about .250. He's going to be a power hitter. Not too many strikeouts, but is a power hitter. So, might not have as much ground, singles, doubles, but he's going to hit home runs. And obviously Manuel Margot, who I picked last in the draft, but with injuries, he's in my starting lineup, which is crazy to me. With all the injuries, with everything going on, the guy who I picked last overall in my draft is going to be starting on opening day, which is crazy. And obviously Austin Meadows as well. He last season, he was on and off because he started the season on the COVID list. Wasn't able to build any consistency, but if you give this guy a full season, we've seen what he can do. Guys projected hit, 71 RBIs, 23 home runs, .259 batting average. So around .260, which is, I think, solid there. Picked up Jorge Soler, who's a guy who's going to hit tanks. I mean, this is a guy who's going to go for 31 home runs probably this year. He's going to bat .252. He's a power hitter. He's a DH. But, I mean, he's one of the best power hitters in the league. He's a DH, so he's going to strike out much. But so I have to utilize him in certain situations. If he's going up against a pitcher that lets up a lot of home runs, I'm going to take advantage of that. But if you're going up against an ace, his strikeout rate might go higher. So I'm not playing him. Jake Cronworth, the guy who doesn't start every day, so I'm not playing him. And Yadier Molina, Not playing him either. There's only one catcher spot. I could put him at utility, I'm sure. But, yeah, I could put him at utility, but I'm not going to. I'm really excited to see what Gene Segura could do. This was a guy I picked up later in the draft, and I feel like he had a good year last year. He's a guy that doesn't strike out much at all, which is big because the strikeouts hurt you a lot in fantasy baseball. He doesn't strike out much, so that's good. So that's kind of my team, and obviously you got guys like Christian Yelich, who are your typical some of the best players in the league right there. So, but yeah, I mean, if I were you today, if you're in a situation where you don't know, who to put in, you also got to look at who they're playing. Like, for example, I mean, Jorge Soler is playing the Texas Rangers, which is a favorable matchup. But, I mean, for example, Dylan Carlson's playing the Reds, right? Obviously, the Reds, not as good as... They still got Luis Castillo and Gray and all them, but it's nowhere good as a pitching staff as Trevor Bauer. So he's not going to have to face Trevor Bauer. A guy like Austin Meadows. Yes, they're probably going up against Alcantara, but he's a guy... Austin Meadows hits fastballs very well. So that's another option there. Obviously, Marcus Semien going up against Garrett Cole. That's not going to be an easy task, but we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, Whit Merrifield going up against Texas. This is a guy that makes a lot of good contact, doesn't strike out much. Texas is not throwing any high heat, any crazy pitchers at you. Very favorable matchup for Whit Merrifield. Will Smith against the Rockies, one of the worst teams in baseball. Very favorable matchup for him and any other Dodgers player you got going there. So that's kind of how it is. But right now, first fantasy baseball game, which should be good. So I'm excited for it. And I got my team all ready as hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully, obviously, hopefully everything goes well. And hopefully, the season goes well and obviously get as many wins and win it all. That's the goal. So that's kind of the outlook on the fantasy baseball team. So let's get into the rest of the New York sports update here. Then we'll finish off the podcast here. Alrighty, so as for the NBA, yesterday the Bucks won, Suns won, Spurs won, Jazz won, Thunder won, Timberwolves won, Magic won, Heat won, and Trailblazers won. Nets also won yesterday, 120 to 108. We moved to 33-15 on the season, which is a solid win. Kyrie at 31 points, Harris at 28 points. So big game. Kyrie led the way with 31 points. Harris also had a big game there. As for today's game, we got the 76ers Cavs. I'll give 76ers the win. Wizards Pistons give Wizards the win. Pelicans Magic give Pelicans the win. Heat Warriors give Heat the win. Hawks Spurs give Hawks the win. And Nuggets Clippers give Nuggets the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 33-15. Hornets come in this game 24-22. Nets are 3.5-point favorites. The over/under is 224.5 for this game. This game comes on today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find this game on TNT. So that should be good there. I'll give Nets to win. I mean, it all depends. I think it really depends on if they have Harden. That's really the big question there. But the Nets are currently the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, so that's good. As for fantasy hockey, yesterday the Sharks won, Kings won, Avalanche won, Maple Leafs won, and Sabres won. And as for today's game, we got the Lightning, Blue Jackets. I'll give Lightning the win. Senators, Canucks. I'll give Canadians. I'll give Canadians the win. Islanders, Capitals, I'll give Islanders the win. Bruins, Penguins, give Bruins the win. Panthers, Red Wings, give Panthers the win. Hurricanes, Blackhawks, give Hurricanes the win. Stars, Predators, give Stars the win. And Golden Knights, Wild, give Golden Knights the win. Rangers also play today. Rangers coming in this game 16-15-4. Sabres coming in this game 7-23-5. The over/under for this game is 6. You can find this game at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on MSG Buffalo and MSG networks as well. The Rangers are expected to win by a lot here. They're the favorites. 86% of people are on the Rangers, so I'm going to give the Rangers the win. I think this is an easy win for the Rangers. We've got to get this win. I mean, this is a win that you got to get. So I'll give the Rangers the win. And as for the MLB, we got baseball today. That's big. We'll start it off here with the Indians and the Tigers. I'll give the Indians the win. Then we'll get to the Twins and the Brewers. I put Twins in my top 10. Give Twins the win. Cubs, Pirates. I'll give Cubs the win. Phillies, Braves. We'll give Phillies the win. Actually, no, Braves. Braves to win. Braves to win. So 53% of people are on the Braves. Yeah, I'll give Braves the win. I don't know why I said the Phillies. Braves to win. Then we'll get to the Reds, Cardinals. I will give Reds the win. Luis Castillo, Jack Flair. That's a good pitching matchup. Padres, Diamondbacks. Padres win easily. Dodgers, Rockies. Dodgers win easily. Royals, Rangers. I'll give Royals the win. Rays, Marlins. I'll give Rays the win. Mets, Nationals. I'll do a preview on that in a little bit here. Then we got the White Sox, Angels. I'll give White Sox the win. Giolito's on the mound there. A's, Astros. I'll give A's the win. Chris Bassett, like I mentioned earlier, very good, solid pitcher. And then Giants, Mariners. I'll give Giants the win. Alrighty, so the Mets play today. Mets come into this game, I'll get to the Mets here. Alright, so the Mets play today. Mets come in this game, obviously 0-0. Nationals come in this game 0-0. This game comes on today, 7:09 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Jacob deGrom's on the mound for the Mets. Max Scherzer's on the mound for the Nationals. The over-under for this game is set at 7. As much as I hate to say it, the Mets are going to win, probably. Okay, the Mets always win on opening day. They will probably win again, especially with the team they have. As much as I hope they lose, they will probably win because they always win on opening day. So I'll give the Mets the win. And as for the Yankees also play today. Yankees come in this game, obviously no record. They play the Blue Jays. This game comes on today, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. The Blue Jays are throwing Hyun-Jin Ryu out there, and the Yankees got Garrett Cole on the mound. The over-under for this game is 8. I will give the Yankees the win. 56% of people say the Yankees will win, so I'll give the Yankees the win. I always kick it off. I'll give them a win. I say they win 4-2. I say that's accurate, right? I'll give the Yankees the win. Kick off the season with a strong start. And let's get to the Yankees lineup here. So the Yankees actually released their lineup. So let me get to it here. Alrighty, so let's get to it. So the Yankees lineup is DJ LeMahieu leading off and playing second base. Aaron Judge playing right field. He is batting second. Aaron Hicks, who's playing center field, batting third. Giancarlo Stanton batting fourth and playing DH and at DH. Gleyber Torres batting fifth, playing shortstop. Gio Urshela batting sixth, playing third base. Gary Sanchez batting seventh and at catcher. Jay Bruce batting eighth and playing first base. And Clint Frazier rounding out the lineup, batting ninth and playing left field. And obviously Garrett Cole is on the mound. So that's what I got for that. And then we'll get into fantasy here. So as for fantasy basketball, I'm currently winning 694 to 669. So today I've got going Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Jeremy Grant, and Trae Young. And the injury update here is Bradley Beal's day-to-day. Beal hip is questionable for Thursday's game against the Pistons, so he's questionable. And Oladipo, some news on him. Oladipo illness remains out for Wednesday's game against the Pacers, but he's expected to make his Heat debut Thursday against the Warriors. Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press reports. So that's that. And then as for the fantasy hockey, I'm currently losing 49 to 31. So hopefully I can make a comeback here. But today I've got going Mika Zibanejad, Steven Stamkos, Artemi Panarin, Braden Point, Nicholas Backstrom, Joe Pavelski, Jeff Petrie, Shea Theodore, Shea Weber. And then I got goalies are Semi Varlamov and Kaapo Kakkonen. So that's that. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I talked about fantasy baseball. So fantasy baseball lineup was earlier, and yeah, that's what I got. So there's 3 games on ESPN today. The Yankees, then the Dodgers game, and then the Mets game will round it out. And I don't know if there's a late game. There might be, but I know it's the Yankees to start, then it's the Dodgers, then it's the Mets who round it out with the late game as well. So go Yankees. Hopefully they pick up the win today. Always good to start on a high note, obviously with all the excitement. And obviously it's nothing better with all the excitement and ending on a win. So hopefully the Yankees get the win today. And everybody enjoy the opening day. Enjoy all the baseball that's on today, as there's games throughout the day. So it should be good. It's very exciting. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.